Okay, fam. So you had a lot to talk about Pelosi.
Yes.
Because she is heavily tied to this Ukraine gate situation, just as Adam Schiff is, just as a variety of these Democrats are, not just Donald Trump. So let's get to it, fam.
Okay.
What did Nance do?
So Nance has a little problem in the Ukraine, and as you know, we call her Nance because Fiorella called her Nance on her voicemail. Did you hear back from her?
No,
Did
she never
call
called
you
me back. I was really upset. I was waiting for a phone call from my great aunt Nancy.
Well,
Nance.
Remember when we talked about this whole situation when it comes to the impeachment? And I said this before, that they don't want to open up Pandora's box, because once they start opening up Pandora's box, all these Democrats are going to come forth, have to come forth with all the crimes they've committed. But it seems like this whole thing is sidestepping. Like, I think Donald Trump took a note in Saudi Arabia of putting everything in his son's names. Therefore, they can't go after him with emoluments. But it looks like he learned it from somebody. Maybe he learned it from Adam Schiff. Maybe he learned it from Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and Hunter Biden. But it turns out Nancy Pelosi's son, Paul, has done a little business in the Ukraine himself. And you can see it. He is executive at a gas company. He did business in the Ukraine. And down below, there's also a video as well, I believe, which has him talking about the energy company. It has Nancy Pelosi kind of sponsoring it. He was out there in 2017. Nancy Pelosi was in the Ukraine in 2017 with him, and therefore they have oil business now inside Ukraine. I wonder how they got the contracts for him. Maybe it's a friendly government. Exactly. And I said this before. There she is. Take a look.
To create it yourself. When President Obama became president of the United States, he elevated science to a higher place in our national priorities. It is science, 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 and science. Breaking our crippling addiction to oil. They are developing desirable, efficient cars that get more than 100 miles per gallon. My son Paul, who is here with me, tells me that that is par for the course and not to be overwhelmed by that prospect that will be considered the normal.
So there's Nancy Pelosi. Then her son comes in. He talks about everything that's going on. They give you the blah, 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 like they're being eco-friendly. No, it's an oil company, and they have their hands, of course, in Ukraine and in Ukraine's natural resources. So there you go. I put a little clip up because I just really, before you say anything, there's Nancy if you want. But remember when I told you about the chickens is coming home to roost? Look who says it right here.
The chickens are coming home to roost, Bobby Boucher. You reap the fruit of your selfish ways.
There you go. You reap the fruit of your selfish ways. Fam, any opinions on the Democrats and Nance?
Well, I just think it's ridiculous that people aren't really seeing this. I think, like I said yesterday, only a few of the independent media journalists are actually getting this right. And it's just really irritates me because now I'm having to, in a way, defend what Donald Trump is saying as valid because they don't have, not only do they not have the ability to impeach him based on this incident, they refuse to impeach him on what they should be impeaching him on. And now Nancy's name is being elevated as like this martyr that's taking down Trump. And you know, impeach Nancy, like Nancy for president, and that she's doing wonderful, and that we need to impeach Trump. And then so the right is saying impeach Nancy because of what she's doing, and it's turned into this whole circus where none of the actual issues of corruption that all of these people have been participating in is being discussed. And we're in the middle of a primary where we should be discussing what these candidates are doing. We're a week from a debate. Why is this this thing? Why is this battle, this political theater of bad actors going at it at each other? It's really doing nothing for the American people. Like we said, impeachment would do nothing for us. And Nancy Pelosi is being hailed as a hero by the left and being like just trashed by the right. And you're giving the right a reason to come back to these elections and vote against the Democratic Party. And that's all that's happening.
You know, I think it does have some positives. I mean, it's a lot of negatives we talked about. It's really a distraction, and I think the whole Ukraine gate, and just watching MSNBC last night, I watched a clip of Michael Moore. It's like they just don't get it. Nobody understands it. It's like they want him to keep pushing forth in this impeachment.
Well, it's because of Trump hatred.
It is. It's TDS. It's Trump deranged syndrome. They can't get past it. And I always said this. Why would they open up an impeachment inquiry when it comes to Ukraine? Because Ukraine gate's going to turn into Biden gate. Biden gate's going to turn into the DNC gate. Their hands were in this. We knew about Adam Schiff. We knew about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Obama has to speak for a lot of these issues and whatnot because we perpetuated a coup. We supported a coup. We backed the Europeans and we joined together because it was anti-Russian. Let's not forget about the main player here because I want to talk about him right now. The main player when it comes to Europe, when it comes to Eastern Europe, has always been George Soros. And George Soros, I found this awesome little video that somebody's been floating around. It's 3 years ago. Here's a little clip from RT showing the fuckery from George Soros. Check this out.
Hackers have leaked over 2,000 documents linked to billionaire George Soros and his grant-making organization, Open Society Foundation. The papers exposed the group's ongoing attempts to influence political processes in Europe, in Russia, other parts of the world as well. Here's Guy in Chichikan.
Leaked documents from George Soros's Open Society Foundations show persistent efforts by the organization to influence the political process in Europe. To reach out to European voters, the organization has funded local advocacy groups, social media projects, and journalists. Here's an example. Over $130,000 went to a project by a group called EU Observer.
This project uses professional news reporting to foster debate on how open society values are under stress in the run-up to the European elections. EU Observer recruited experienced local journalists to visit campaign events, conduct interviews and solicit high-level op-eds in 16 countries.
While the Soros organization has been doing all this hard work trying to influence politics in Europe, a leaked document shows the organization's $500,000 effort to find evidence of Russia's alleged influence in Europe's political life. The proposal reads, quote, "The evidence is still rather sketchy and based more on strong allegations, hence the need to first do a proper mapping," end quote.
I think that the European public is underreacting, and that's why I'm trying to explain to them the real danger that Russia represents.
From the leaked document, we also see that the Soros team recognizes the problem of trying to accuse Russia of influencing politics in Europe.
Naming and shaming from us is problematic. We also are in the business of channeling money into other countries for political purposes.
When he says democracy, he means Sorosocracy.
Wow. Okay.
You know what? Can we put that out real quick? Because I want him rather. We might as well. He says Sorosocracy. He just gives a little. After he says, just finish it up and all.
He doesn't mean what we might otherwise think of democracy. He wants to wreck Europe. That's why he's for all these open borders and these vast numbers of people coming in.
Over the years, George Soros has been.
I just wanted to finish up his quote when he said Sorosocracy. And the fact that he said George Soros wants to wreck Europe.
Do you really believe that open borders are going to wreck Europe, though? Because that seems like a right-wing talking point.
Well, I don't think that it's going to wreck Europe. But here's the thing: I think they want one monetary system in Europe. I believe
they're more globalists.
Yeah, they want one system where they can control large amounts of people, where they can tell Greece that they have to be put forth in austerity measures and have to pay them back, where they can use one channel to force people. That's why I think when Italy came in and was telling the EU to go scratch, it was so big. But yes, I do believe that they want one currency to rule in that area, and that's why they tried to make the move into Ukraine, starting maybe back in 2004, 2005 with I believe it was the Orange Revolution, and up until 2014 when they backed another revolution. But you saw that there, all the journalists, they go after journalists. They use the media to dictate their narrative. You know what I'm saying? They use the media to fool people. So, and they take away and they suppress independent media like ourselves, keep us quiet. They don't let us talk the truth. They shadow ban us. They do everything. But that's what George Soros is all about. He funded a lot of these journalists and these independent media companies, these NGOs in the Ukraine. So I just wanted to show one more connection.
Maybe the open border thing is in reference of the like mass migration. You know.
I think open
that's how
borders
he-
is treated differently in Europe as than it is here.
Well, it's a
because-
bigger problem because there's a huge migration problem, right? And it's because of the wars that the United States has
Exactly.
participated in,
Right.
the regime change in the Middle East and everything.
Exactly.
The open borders allows them, when they had Libya and it had that mass migration of immigration going into Europe, the open borders allows the immigrants to spread out. Once again, it's that slave labor for an elite kind. What did they say? What did he say that one time, Tucker? It's a working class for the ruling class.
It's a working class for the ruling class.
A working class for the ruling class. Cheap labor. So that's what it's all about, too, as well. But we have to talk about this connection, fam, about Soros and Pelosi. Because there was something in the Guatemala trip she just went to that shows that Soros if you Google this, you DuckDuckGo this is all over there. Is Nancy Pelosi's Guatemala trip a cover to meet up with George Soros conduit? The answer is yes, because there's been other situations. There's been a big picture floating around. If you go down in that particular article, look at this, fam. Oh, you know who that is? That's George Soros' son and Nancy Pelosi. The connections are there. We showed you the connections between Soros and Schiff. There are connections between Soros and Nancy Pelosi. We know who's pulling the strings now. You know it. It's there. It's in the open. People and oligarchs like George Soros. So my question to you, fam, is as this keeps opening up and more we go diving in this, should the Democrats halt this impeachment process right away?
I think they're too far gone to halt it. At this point, like I think like they've invested so much time and so much energy and so much validity in it that if they halt it, it would look bad for them. But if they don't halt it, it's gonna end up screwing them anyway.
Yeah.
So I really think that they have to go through with it, and
I mean, the question is who's next?
they can pretend they can halt it and use any kind of excuse, but the reality is they're all involved in this. And if let's say for a minute that if Trump, Don Jr. was doing what Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden did, and their kids were doing, we would have a completely different. They'd be all over it. They'd be all about it.
Yeah.
It'd be targeting them directly. But it's ridiculous to look over what Trump's doing and not also take Nancy, Biden, and Adam Schiff accountable to what they've been doing. And just shows you that, just like when we saw the Ellen DeGeneres laughing with George Bush at the Cowboys game, they're all one big club. It doesn't matter like if they're left or right. They're all corrupt in their own ways. Trump may not have a hand in this right now, but he's done other things that he should be held accountable for. Same as Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and Adam Schiff. And they're trying to all place blame on the other and avoid complete accountability. Meanwhile, nothing of substance gets done for the American people. And I think that's why people like Tulsi Gabbard are rising in the polls, because they're done with that sort of thing. Like she's not paying attention to that. She's not focused on that. And I think we as a people need to not focus on this. Tell them, why are you guys still talking about this? Just like with Russiagate, this is a waste of time. This is doing nothing for the American people. The American people are suffering and you guys need to do your jobs.
Wow. I always talked about this being a little bit different, that Trump's emoluments are in Saudi Arabia. And the biggest difference is Saudi Arabia was a country, a dictatorship, monarchy, but he didn't go in there and perpetuate regime change to get his way and has put everything under his son's names. The emoluments for the Democrats, a lot of them are in Ukraine. And the biggest difference is that they perpetuated regime change with George Soros. They changed the government to benefit themselves. Right. And that's the big on top of this. Has Trump been damaged in any way by this, fam?
Trump?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think he's been damaged. I think he's actually being elevated by his base. Yeah. His base thinks he's a martyr, he's a victim, all of these things. I think not only does his base think that, I think it's probably pulling people away from the Democratic Party. I think this has done nothing but damage the Democratic Party. They think they're winning because their echo chamber is like, impeach him, but really, even if you hate Trump, impeaching him under this does nothing.
This
for
is the
us
wrong area.
except hurt us.
This is the wrong area to impeach him. Has the Democrats already handed Trump the victory for 2020 with this? Because I think unless it's a Bernie or a Tulsi or something like that, that it's over.
Yeah.
Like I don't think any
I 100%
establishment
agree.
Democrat has a chance now.
No.
Because of this latest move that, like you said, they elevated him. They lifted him up.
And
I
maybe
agree.
that's on purpose because Trump
Right.
would be better than Bernie and or a Tulsi,
See,
right?
Look, you see, where's that meme with Johnny? Johnny says maybe this is on purpose. Think.
They would rather have
I love
Trump than Bernie. That's
love
the
it.
thing.